After a while, the maid tells Dallos that everyone is busy preparing for the feast, so he needs to fetch hot water to prepare the bath. She then gave him the rose petals and said, "After the tub gets full, add these to the water." Dallos slowly started to fetch the water, as it's too heavy for him. After some time, he finally managed to fill the bathtub. After dropping the rose petals, he looked inside and wondered, how would it feel to soak himself in it? He checked his surrounding, thinking, no one will notice if he enter and leave quickly. He then removed his clothes and soaked inside the tub. He then starts feeling drowsy and slowly fell asleep. After a while, Madam arrived and asked the maid if it's ready, and she replied, "Yes, Dallos has prepared the bath." She went inside while saying, "He is still a kid. That must have been very exhausting." Suddenly, Dallos woke up after hearing Madam's voice and saw her coming. He quickly hid in the tub, and the maid said, "She is going to leave the tea with the customary setup." After the maid left, Dallos used the tray to hide while breathing. Madam then removed her clothes and came inside the tub as well. At the same time, everyone was enjoying the feast. Uriam saw the boy eating alone, so she asked him about Dallas. The boy replied that he was tasked to prepare the bath for the madam, and since then, he hasn't seen him around. At the same time, so he was enjoying her food with her sister Surim. Surim tells her to be more grateful to her, since she hunted down the biggest out of the pack in the wild. She then remembered what exactly happened. She was hiding in the bush and managed to shoot the boar in a single strike, but her shot was not enough to kill it, and the boar charged at her. But then it was killed by Syong, who shot multiple arrows within seconds. Surim was shivering but acted tough and said she had the situation under control. Syong replied, "It was dealt a deadly blow ahead of now, so the kill is hers." He then angrily kicked the dead boar, saying, "How dare it to attack her," which made Surim fall in love with him. So he said, "It is a shame that she was born as a woman," and suggested her to start dressing and act like a man. Surim gets angry after hearing that and scolds her for teasing her elder sister. Suddenly, Uriam arrived and asked if she has seen Dallos. She tells her that everyone is enjoying the feast, but he is nowhere to be found. Meanwhile, Dallas was still in the tub and was looking at her madam's body. He was using the tray to hide himself and praying to God, do not let her take the tray after she is finished. He thought even though the madam is kind and forgiving, but in this situation, she wouldn't be the same. At the same time, Urim tells, so he that dollars went to make the bath, and then after no one has seen him, so he then decides to check the bath area first and hopes he is not causing a mess for anyone. After some time, Madam was done with the tea and snacks, so she thought that she should just take the tray on the way out. Dallos gets scared as he realized that he is done for. But before the madam could pick the tray, so he arrived and called her name. She asked her mother if she has seen Dallos as she is looking for him, while her mother replied that she hasn't seen him. So he noticed that Dallos was hiding in the bathtub. She then holds her mother's hand and tells her to come out for a moment. While her mother was asking her what happened, Dallos slowly came out of the tub, so he kept her mother busy while Dallos make his escape. After he left, she said the boar was quite tasty, so she came to tell her that. Her mother then tell her to inform Diko-chan to look for Dallos as she should go to sleep now. Outside, she asked Dallos what was he doing in there. He replied, he never had a bath before, so he wanted to try it out, but the madam came sooner than expected. She then tells him to not say anything about this incident to anyone, as it would be a mess. Then the next morning, while the two boys were cleaning the yard, Dallos tells the other boy Hyan to open his eyes. Suddenly, they heard Siram's voice, asking if he is the new servant. They both greeted her and Dallos introduced himself. She tells them to follow her and starts walking, while Hyan muttered, "They are going to be dead meat." She take them to her training place, gave them the wooden sticks and ordered them to attack. Hyan gathered his courage and dashed toward her, but Siram easily dodged the attack and defeated him. Dallos realized, if he follows Hyan's pattern, then he is going to lose. He dashed toward her and was aiming at her legs. But to Siram's surprise, Dallos changed the aim at the last second and tried to hit her face. She dodged the attack, but Dallos controlled himself and attacked again. But Siram blocked it and sent him flying with a kick and then continuously punched him. Dallos surrendered and Surim praised him, saying he is better than the other one. He knows all he can do is let her beat him to her satisfaction. But then he realized that her butts are rubbing against his waist. He was praying to God to not let her get up. But then, Serum felt something rising from below. So she quickly stood up and said she should leave. And just like that, several years passed. And playing with his friends, serving Sohee, and get beaten up by Serum was Dallos' daily routine. As the years passed, Sohee and Dallos gets close to each other. More years passed, and Dallos become an adult. He was chopping wood in the forest when Uriam came running to tell him that Sohee is asking for him. She tells him to go as quickly as possible and also bring some melons for him to eat. Dallos arrived at her room and asked Sohee if she called for him. Sohee replied indeed and tells him to come inside the room. Meanwhile, Uriam was thinking why would she call for Dallos inside the room. So he gave Dallos something saying it's a token of her appreciation. It was a cloth with 2 stars printed on it, and so he said, "These stars are them." Urim was listening to their conversation and wondered, "What is that gift?" So he then tells Dallos that she would like to ask him a favor. She whispered something in his ear, knowing that Urim is outside. Urim was trying her best to listen to Sohee's request. But then, Dallos opened the door and came out. While returning, she asked him, what did Sohee ask him to do for her? But Dallos smiled and in reply it's a secret. Angered Uriam said, she is not even curious or anything. After sulking for a while, she asked him if he wants her to refresh his back a little. After some time, Sohee was looking for Uriam. She reached the backyard and finds her with Dallos. Uriam was washing Dallos' back with cold water. She then slowly lowered his clothes and start rubbing his, but Dallos tried to stop her from going any further. But she tells him to stay put, as his butt is sweaty too. Suddenly they heard Sohee's voice, who calls for Urim. She went close to them and ordered Urim to go to the fields to pick some watermelon and prepare it for her. And after she left, Sohee tells Dallos to lay down again and said, she will continue his refreshment as Urim just did. Dallos lay down and Sohee thought that his back is so broad. She starts rubbing his back, just like Uriam did to him. She asked him if it's refreshing, and Dallos replied, yes it is. So he then remembered that Uriam was even touching his bottom, so she should do the same. She grabbed his butt and thought, it's firm, yet soft, it feels good. Suddenly, she noticed the shadow of something and gets startled. She thought, she has heard about a man's thing. As hard as it can get, the length never reached the size of a hand. But Dallos' thing has the shape and size of an eggplant. It grew bigger, and so he fell to the ground after seeing that. She then quickly get up and said she should leave. While going back, she thought if Dallos was trying to tell her that he liked her touch to that extent. She then noticed that her fan is missing from her hand. She went back to pick the fan and then she heard some strange noises. She wondered what those noises are and decides to check it herself. At the same time, Urim was picking the watermelon and saying, why can't lady so he just let her be alone with dolls? Suddenly, someone appeared behind her and grabbed her butt. She shouted and turns back to see who that person is. It was Haeyoung, who asked what she is doing in the field. She scolds him for touching her but instead, if he touch it again, then she will kill him. Haeyoung said there was a fly on it, so he was just trying to help, but Urim gets angry and was about to hit him. But then, Haeyoung showed her something and said he brought it for her. Urim gets surprised to see a jewelry, and Haeyoung tells her that he saved money to buy this for her. Urim accepted it. So Haeyoung tells her to meet him at the lake tonight, as there is something he want to tell her. But Urim tells him to keep dreaming and said she is going to see Dallos, and ran away with the gift. At the same time, Sohee reached the source of the sound. There, she saw Dallos, who was doing something with his Excalibur. So he saw him doing that, and wondered if something that tremendous enters inside a woman. Would everything be okay? Suddenly, she heard him saying her name and going faster. Dallos was on climax and said, my lady, I will come inside. And then, something flew in front of Sohee's eyes. After Dallos left, she came out of hiding and went close to the place. She picked it up with her fingers and thought it's white hot and sticky. Suddenly the heat started rising inside her, and she feel weird in her stomach at night. Hyan gets up, and after checking the surrounding, he slowly left the room. After a while, when Hyan was hiding behind a bush, he heard Dallas saying, "What is he doing so late at night?" He tells Dallas to get silent and not even let out a breath, as it's going to start soon. And then, Dallas gets shocked to see Uriam arriving there. Dallas shockingly asks, how did he know Uriam was about to bathe? Hyan replied, everyone's clothes were hanged out to dry. That's how you know summer is coming to an end. So when night falls, she heads down to the river for a dip. Dallas thought, this guy has a brilliant mind when it comes to the dirty stuff. Dallas remembered his childhood, how he and Uriam used to take their baths together. But after that, as Uriam grew older, how he and Uriam used to take their baths together.